Now, I discussed with you in the previous segment about why the Insurrection Act argument wouldn't work. And I explained to you what we have the government asserting in the case here. The government interprets this is from Politico. Government interprets it as authorizing, meaning the Insurrection Act. Government interprets the Insurrection Act as authorizing the president to call up National Guard forces to suppress domestic unrest. Rhodes' attorney says it empowered Trump to call up less formal bodies like the OathKeepers. So that is the assertion here, is interpretation of the Insurrection Act, where and whether that would have given the Oath-keepers any legitimacy. But as I've explained before, that is part of many of the other non-arguments, because either you are there for free speech and bravado, or you are there for Donald Trump's invoking of the Insurrection Act. And I talked about this a long time ago, before the insurrection, that don't go there, don't be a part of any sort of conflict with them. And I'm so happy that none of the non-MAGA protesters were there on January 6th, because that's what they were banking on. That's what you can see from their communications as the case unfolds, that they were actually banking on Antifa being there. You see what I mean? And that didn't happen. And if you go to my warning that I gave to Lincoln Project, that's on my channel, from Veterans Day, November 2020, I said that they would cause that and invoke the Insurrection Act. And that was their plan. I was warning as they were planning this. Now, these are portions of Rhodes' text message. The final defense is us and our rifles. Trump has a duty to stand, but so far he hasn't, as Roger Stone said. Of course, Roger Stone comes up again. As I've said many, many times, every single one of these aspects of the seditious conspiracy has Roger Stone's fingers all over it. Then we learn that Rhodes is accused of encouraging and carrying of a hard helmet with the use to strike someone with, and there's discussion of attaching flags to lead pipes, right? I mean, free speech and bravado doesn't match with this. This group is accused of knowing DC gun restrictions, and of staging guns outside the city limits of January 6th. So that goes to the overt planning of being part of a militia that was planning to attack the Article 1 branch of our government. The FBI agent testified that Stewart Rhodes is heard referencing plan of everybody to be armed outside of DC if the president calls us in. You see, I mean, the president calls us in. We're going to learn a lot more about that, because we're going to learn how did they get to that they knew it was the plan for Donald to invoke the Insurrection Act. What was the plan? We're going to learn about the plan. Here's Mr. Rhodes saying, so our mission's going to be to go into DC, but I do want some Oath Keepers to stay on the outside and to stay fully armed and prepared to go in armed if they have to. So if the shit kicks off, then you rock and roll, okay? All right. Yeah, that's very free speech and bravado. But we also want to have some of our best men posted up outside. We'll have to make a determination of who goes where and who's going to be on the outside and who's going to be on the inside. So we're going to have a quick reaction force, armed QRF, armed quick reaction force, but the quick reaction force will be awaiting the president's orders, okay? That's our official position. And the reason why we have to do it that way is because that gives you legal cover. So I mean, self-explanatory. But let's make no illusion about what's going on in this country. We're very much in exactly the same spot that the founding fathers were in March 1775. Now, and Patrick Henry was right, nothing left but to fight. And that's true for us too. We're not getting out of this without a fight. There's going to be a fight. But let's do this. Let's do it smart, and let's do it while President Trump is still commander in chief, and let's try to get him to do his duty, and step up and do it. A lot of do-its and fights, and going back to 1775. Then he said, if the fight comes, let the fight come. If Antifa if they go kinetic on us, then we'll go kinetic back on them. I'm willing to sacrifice myself for that. Let the fight start there, okay? That would give President Trump what he needs, frankly. Thank you for being frank, Elmer. If things go kinetic, good. If they blow bombs up and shoot us, great. Because that brings the president his reason and rationale for dropping the Insurrection Act. Do you see what I mean? Do you see what a great duty you did if you are Antifa, anti-fascist? I am anti-fascist. If you are Antifa like I am, and you decided not to go and be there physically and have physical altercations with these people, because that was part of their plan. That was an operative part of their plan. And when that failed, their whole house of cards fell apart, as does his argument here. So when you have these texts, these meetings coming out, no one is disputing that these meetings and these texts are true. They may be claiming, no, these are improperly gotten and da. They're not saying they're not true, mind you. So that's where we are. We're getting closer and closer to understanding the planning that went behind and the rationale that these militias were using. And it's as transparent as day, and it's like me reviewing my warnings from November of 2020.